Welcome to Everyone Has a Story podcast. Today we're going to talk about barriers. Now, let's go from the very start of where we start getting introduced to barriers. For a lot of us, I know, even me, at a very young age, we are told what to do and how to do it. But if we ever questioned why, it seemed like it just hit a dead end. We never really got a chance to understand why. We were told that that's not important. Just do it this way. This is exactly how you do it. But for me, and I know my guest speaker, we never accepted just the idea that we were going to be shown what to do, told what to do, and never questioned why. So let me give you an example of how I was when I was younger. When I was younger, in high school, junior high, I played a lot of competitive tennis. And as everybody, when we play competitive sports, you always have that one or two rivals that really just push all your buttons and make you try harder and harder. Well, this one individual, he was my rival. We were good friends, but on the tennis court, boy, we fought it out probably harder than anybody else that we ever played against. And we were told growing up, when you're taught how to play tennis, that you always, I mean always, hit to your opponent's backhand when you can, because that's always their weaker shot. Well, as time went on, some of us got very good at backhands. And this one gentleman that I'm talking about, he had one heck of a great backhand. And so, being the robots that all our competitors did, they always hit to this guy's backhand and they always came up losing. But I saw that this guy had a great backhand. So I realized that, you know what? I have to play a different strategy against this guy. Even though all of my coaches said, hit to his backhand, hit to his backhand, I started always hitting to his forehand. Well, guess what? I started winning more matches against him than he did against me. And all of the guys that I played against, they always asked me, why do you always win against him? And we always can barely even get points off of him. And I never told them my secret because really I wanted to keep winning and I didn't want to just give all my secrets out. But the fact is that in time and in life, real life, we are going to hit those barriers that we need to question, and we can't just follow the same suit as everybody else, because that's just going to get us down the path of everybody being together. But we need to sometimes separate ourselves and look to see what the bigger picture looks like, see what really all the dynamics look like in that one scenario, like me playing tennis and realizing that I'm not going to play this guy like everybody else did. I'm playing it the way I see fit, and it became successful for me. And so that's really what we're going to talk about today, is really looking at some of those barriers that are given and how to really build that gate, that fence, and be able to walk through that door and say that, you know what, this might be your barrier, but I'm not going to accept it as mine. So joining me today is a great guest. I am so excited to have this guest speaker with me today. So let me introduce Shehnaz Soni. How are you? And welcome.
Thank you, Roger. I'm excited to have this convergence with you.
Yeah, I'm so excited. So let me introduce Shehnaz. She is a senior system engineer at NASA. She is the author of Quantum Being, which is a book that we're going to talk about during the podcast. She's a spiritual alchemist. And oh, by the way, did I tell you that she's a rocket scientist? How great is this to have a rocket scientist that you get to learn more about life from, as opposed to just going to the moon? So Shehnaz, welcome. And why don't you give us a little bit more of who you really are?
Who really I am, other than all these labels, right? I think I'm the quantum being, which is why I wrote the book, The Quantum Being, because we all are quantum being. But when we hone the power, like it was interesting listening to you on how you started out with, like when you change the pattern, like you change the pattern, and that's how you started winning in your tennis strategy. And that is what we actually are. Like when we start observing ourselves, then that's how we create that ripple in space and time. That's how we create that new experience in our life. And when you can just wake up every day thinking that, let's see, what am I going to create today? How am I going to show up for the people I love, right? What type of day am I going to have in case it's my last day? That's what makes you quantum being. That's my definition of quantum being. So yeah, I call myself the quantum being who has lived many lives in different roles, different roles. Like, I played all this role in order to understand me. Because I think we're all here to walk each other home. We're all here to understand why we are here and what are we supposed to do. And when we do that with love, with curiosity, with excitement, and with awareness, then that is what makes our existence worth every nanosecond movement.
So, we can all learn from that, because somehow, some way, we become a society where we are so caught up in our past. We skip the present, go into our future, and then we start getting anxious, but we forget to be here today, right now, like we are right now. You and I are here together doing this podcast. And to me, everything is a new dimension. We've talked about these talking points. I think I know what you're going to say very well, but I know that today, a lot of the stuff that we've talked about is going to be somewhat massaged to fit today and how we are showing up today. And so with that being said, I got a chance to read your book, and I have to tell you, it was eye-opening for me. It was written like a good rocket scientist would read. It was very, very detailed and in a lot of the science behind this. But I know that talking to you, that there's a whole lot more than just the science behind quantum being the book. And so tell us, why did you write it, and what is the message that you want us all to get from that book, from your book?
So the main reason I wrote the book is because since I came to America, Los Angeles, in 1992 through an arranged marriage and not speaking English, and had to go through a lot of different way to mold myself, right? To acculturate myself, to accept this new extreme reality with a strange man and a strange culture and a different language. And as I was taking that journey down the rabbit hole, and there were times people would come in my life and they would say, "What brought you to America?" And I would say, "Yeah, this. They're like, "Oh my God, you need to write a book," right? So it was already implanted in me to write a book. And for the longest time, I thought I'm going to have to write a book about my journey and how I became the rocket scientist. And then I realized that nobody knows me. Nobody cares. I'm not an Angelina Jolie that everybody wants to know about me. So if I write a book that just shares my story of self-discovery and finding myself, it won't be a good thing to share to humanity. So then I combined myself with my little bit of my storytelling with all the things I learned in my quest for understanding consciousness, in my quest to understand that why are we here on this earth. And last year happens to be that the beginning of the year, my oldest son, who is a special child, he was born with CP, he went to college, and I have been full-time raising him for 25 years, nonstop, full-time job by itself. So for the first time in my life, I was completely alone. And I was like, you know what? I have done it all as a mother, as an engineer, as Shehnaz. It's time that this book that everybody wants me to write, I make that happen. So I actually created a schedule like a project engineer in December of 2021. And I gave myself a deadline that the book has to be published by the time my birthday comes, which was October 15th. And that is how I made that book happen.
Well, like I said, when I first got done reading the book, when I reached out to you again to follow up with another conversation, all I could think about that you should give this book to Netflix or Amazon Prime, and they should have a series made of it, because I'll tell you, every time I went from one chapter to another, to one thought to another, you brought up a whole new episode in your life. I mean, my podcast is Everyone Has a Story. For the love of God, you had 30 stories before I even got really through the introduction of your book. I mean, it's an amazing quest that you've lived and the experiences. So why do you think your words and your past experiences are something that we all need to hear and really embrace? And what can we learn from it?
I'll tell you why, okay? And actually, it's connected to what I was sharing earlier before the podcast started, right? And I have to share that because I want to give everybody a context. So this morning, I got invited to a space club where the woman, a leader who is pioneering the moon to Mars architecture for NASA, was a speaker. And she talked about the Artemis project that I'm working on, which is all about living on moon and Mars. And then she mentioned something in her conversation, which was all about rule setting. Like she was saying that we have to make sure we create a very good core value and create a core rules. So whichever human lives on a dark side of the moon first, they represent American values, American Constitution, and what makes one a good human, so that we are not fighting for space or throwing somebody in a ditch because we want to take over, right? So I really love that part of her speech. And when the time came in the audience for us to ask a question, I asked her this question. I said, that help me with this, because when you watch a movie like Interstellar, right, you see that how even the astronaut is out there to take their fellow astronaut just because they want to survive. Just for that survival, the quest for survival makes you so dark sometimes that you're willing to give everybody else's life so you can survive. So I basically asked her that how are we going to mitigate that along with what's happening on Earth right now with the Middle Eastern and all of that, right? Like how are we making sure we incorporate all the lessons learned from Earth before we do this colony on Moon and Mars? And she loved my question and she said NASA is doing their best and so forth. So what I'm going to answer to your question now is that, Roger, what I want to do is create a good template for human being to exist on Earth with every other being, including human, including animal kingdom, including insect, including alien. That is why the quantum being to me is my recipe, my way of sharing how we should all show up. That's what I've learned. So that's what I want to share. And that is my main quest, is that if we can all look at ourselves at the subatomic level, who we are, then we can no longer be fighting over the difference in religion or difference in race or difference in gender, sexual orientation. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So did you have a tipping point for you to realize that, you know what, you want to be more connected to you as that quantum being?
Well, the tipping point started right in the beginning in my life when I was aware of my existence. Like I was aware that I'm genie in this bottle, like I was aware of being trapped in this body. And what happened was is whenever I asked for any kind of help from, family, friends, or whatever, like about trying to understand myself, that why do I not agree that this is all there is to life? Like, why do I want to understand that what's behind that cloud or behind the sky? Like, why do I have this extreme thirst for breaking free? And I was not being given any kind of, there was nobody who can quench my thirst. So what it did to me was that it made me realize that I have to really take full charge of this quest, this curiosity, this understanding that I need to have so I can live happily with myself. So I think that was the trigger. And the trigger kept getting more and more amplified as I got people blocking me from right and left and up and down.
So we all have had those moments that you just shared, that you've shared in the book, that I shared with my tennis experience growing up. But sometimes they don't connect. We don't realize that is a message being sent to us, told to us, that we need to be curious, be more aware, and question. And so what advice would you give to other individuals who are experiencing those same scenarios just in their own unique way, in their their own unique, experiential way. How would you help them become more aware that these are signs that they need to explore?
Well, the very first thing is that, we have to honor the fact that we are not just physical being, right? We are emotional being because we feel everything, right? We're mental being because we think, right? We're spiritual being because we transform, and even when we die, we transform into another, but we never truly, our spirit remains. I mean, that's just my belief. And regardless of whether you believe in it or not, at the end of the day, don't you feel the pain when you get hurt, right? When somebody treats you bad, don't you feel not good in your heart? So to me, that is a very good gauge. And what we need to do is represent ourselves the best way we can, because nobody knows how you feel day in and day out. The only person who feels anything is you. And when you just kill yourself for the sake of other people, or for the sake of peer pressure, or for the sake of being obedient to the traditional way of showing up in the world, then you keep killing that part of your spirit that you were born to exude. And you should not do that. That's my message, is that you should not do that, because if you're going to kill yourself day by day, then what's the use of existing on the first place?
Well said. Now, let's go to my world, which is the business community. How does this all apply to today's workplace environment, where we hear of all the ups and downs, the unhappiness, the even some places being called toxic workplaces? People aren't getting along, and I love how your goal with writing this book and being this spiritual alchemist that wants to be that quantum being to help people. How can this help the individuals and the organization within the workplace?
It's first, if they actually can represent themselves, right? So everybody needs to at least take responsibility for how they want to show up in the world, what their particular vision is, and where they want to go themselves. Because first you have to be clear in where you want to go, and then you can find all the people who are going to the same place, and then you say, let's work together, let's help each other. That to me is a step-by-step process, right? But you have to be clear on what you want without being distracted by other people's agenda or other people's, because a lot of time people have a hard time separating themselves from other people, because we are a social animal. We do love to live with people. We do want to be accepted by other people, because there's no other way to validate our existence. So the key step is you have to be clear on what your vision is. So like, if I'm clear that my vision is that I'm definitely going to be showing up as quantum being, but I can't have fun if it's just me being the quantum being. I want the whole world to be the quantum being. So what I'm going to do is do my best to help other people understand what that means. And maybe they can teach me something I don't know. So we can do that dance, the quantum dance, right? But it's very clear to me that I'm not going to be any less than that, because as long as I'm alive, I should just do my best.
I don't know what kind of music goes along with that quantum dance, but I know what it's like to hear the right song, go to the dance floor, and enjoy that moment of, really showing the world, being free to just who you are on that dance floor at that moment in time. So introducing this quantum dance to this organization and the individuals that make up that organization, other than having that good feeling of feeling free for that moment to complete that dance in whatever way you want, what are some of the real results that the organization and the individuals can really feel? And I mean, really feel deep down into their core, their quantum being, with having this process and following this kind of a guideline down this path.
Okay, so I'll give an example. It's funny because I'm going to show you this. See if I can. Are you able to see this picture?
Yes.
Okay, and I'll explain it to you, because then I can even send you a screenshot. But the thing is, I had a guest who just left, and I'm going to use another example because it always helps to convey the message. She was basically talking about all these high up people, because election is coming next year and people are getting ready and everybody has a goal to support their president and support their certain vote in certain state. And we were having that conversation. And I was thinking, and that applies to the organization as well, right? So let's say if every organization has a goal, they want to make more profit, they want to have employees that represents them well, whatever, all of those goals, everybody wants everything, everybody wants a similar thing. How you get there is where it gets interesting. What I would say is that when you are very clear in your vision, then what happens is that you communicate that vision to other people. If you're clear, like right now, on the Artemis program, it's all about living on a moon, right? Clear vision. They have all these pictures that is being made by designers. They're already spreading all these YouTube videos all over the world to make people hyped up about living on the moon, right? People are not thinking. So this is how you share the vision, you multiply the vision. And then when everybody agrees that this is a good vision, then basically you are using other people to broadcast your vision. You don't have to do it yourself. You basically use other people to broadcast the vision. And it becomes that fractal multiplication that happens on all levels, right? Then what you do is based on that vision, if you want to have a certain employee, because all the employee who wants to help me go to the moon, please join me on this quest. Everybody's like, I would love to be part of your team. You see, so when you have a vision, it makes it easier to get the people who want to be with you in that vision. You don't have to sell it. You basically say, this is the vision. And do you like it? Yeah, I like it. I'm in. You create that community. People are going in. And then you, of course, when people are joining you for the vision, then you go into these are the core values we're looking for. These are the core principles we're going to have, right? So it kind of becomes that step-by-step process. And in the process, of course, maybe the percentage will keep on, you attract 100 people. And then, you end up with 50 when you talk about core principle. They're like, no, this is not mine. And then, at the end of the day, you may end up with 10 people. But those 10 people are the one that you're going to use. It's like, when you make when you transfer the milk into yogurt, you want to take a little, you basically are looking at a living organism and transforming the characteristics of the milk into yogurt, just like you make a kombucha. Same. So those 10 people becomes your culture. That becomes your small template for what you want to create as a sacred geometry of flower of life to come from, you see?
So can you walk us through that process? You get invited to come interact with this organization and its employees. Walk us through the audience, this process of exactly what you just said on making that happen in reality to this organization and for this organization.
Okay. So step number 1 is that you create a vision, right? So you create a vision in a pictorial representation. You can make a documentary. You can make a video. It always helps when you make a vision easy to understand, because you don't want the message to get lost in translation, right? So I would say that it would actually help to make a vision in multiple ways. So depending on people, because some people are auditory, some people are better with visual. Everybody has different way of accepting information. You can cover all your different holographic aspect of human existence, right? With that. So that would be the step number 1 is create a vision and make it very easy to understand. Then you have to broadcast the vision and figure out a platform. And actually, in that particular case, you want to figure out the platform based on the type of people you really want to attract. Okay? Because you want to attract, like if you want to attract a whole bunch of engineers, right? Then you want to join one of these organizations that's all loaded with engineers, and you go and speak there and tell everybody this is the vision and we're looking for engineers who want to join us. And please send us your resume, right? It's easy, straightforward. But the point is you go into the venue where you know you're going to find the type of people you like. And to me, that gets very interesting because nowadays social media is what everybody's using. And social media, you truly don't know what the person is behind that image that they're broadcasting and selling as a perception. So it kind of gets a little bit interesting. So to me, that becomes an important venue. So number 1, make a vision, easy to understand. multi-layer. Number two, select the venue based on the first specimen you want to attract, create as your original culture for what you're going to grow to, right? And then third, once you find that specimen, then you want to communicate to them like a step, like a detail of what it is, what it's going to take, what you expect, what type of role they can play based on their skills and set. So then it becomes like a exchange, the handshake, right? Like, this is what I would like to happen. How are you going to help me? How are you going to help me? And how am I going to help you? And how are we going to dance together, right? How are we going to create that convergence? So that is where, of course, rubber meets the road. And that's where the actual process happens of selecting the person or, to join the organization. And to me, that becomes kind of a multi-layer process too, because, you're learning about yourself as you are processing the mirror in the form of another person.
So how does someone know when that attraction has now led to a real authentic connection?
It's because it aligns with your vision. Like, you go back to the, blackboard, right? You go back to the whiteboard or blackboard. The point is, you go back, you always have to go back to the vision, because that is the only way everybody can say that, yeah, I agree. Because, we all speak our own language, even though we all speak English, but we all have our own understanding, our own perception, our own experience, our own way of understanding things. So it helps when that's why you have to have a very simple, straightforward vision. And when you feel that you can feel that this person is truly, and a lot of time while you are feeling that connection, an authentic connection, and it could be that your vision may end up getting a little bit refined in the process, right? Because, at the end of the day, we are a quantum being, right? So I have to come back to that we are a moving molecule, which means Earth is moving, right? Everything is moving around our cosmos. And we are also continuously evolving and changing. And today you like coffee, tomorrow you may want a tea. So you have to be able to adjust that. And you should never take personally, as you're evolving and changing, the other person is too. So you either go walk together. I'll give you this imagination, Roger. So I've watched some of the movies where they show this Victorian dance, right? Where you change partner, you dance, and then you say thank you, and you move to the next one. To some extent, we're all doing that in our lives. And if we actually can accept that that's just part of our existence and that's just the way who we are, we wouldn't be so much fighting on like everybody else's. Like, why did you no longer want to have a lunch with me today? I'm like, so what? Who cares? Find somebody else. You see my point? Let's just move on. And I think that is the mindset you have to have. Otherwise, when you get too attached, because attachment affects the flow, quantum physics. Because we already know that when you're looking at the electron being shot from the gun in the double slit experiment, what happens? They behave like a particle.
So I know that attachment. I know what that feels like, because sometimes you put a lot of energy and manpower to really make that connection happen, and it just doesn't. But then also, and you worded that the articulation of that was very good. But I guess, what about the time where, I'm a business guy, I've got my bottom line that I have to worry about, I got my bills I have to pay, I got my payroll for my employees, someone leaves, they detach themselves for whatever the reason, and I have to put someone in that role. So is it the attachment why I promote from within, even though that person might not be ideal, but because they're here right now, I've grown attached to them, I now promote them to a position that really they're doomed to fail. I mean, they're just not the right person to sit on that particular seat on that bus. Is that part of the attachment that we need to really be aware of, and not let that be the reason why we choose a person to sit in that role at that moment in time?
Exactly. Because as soon as you choose that person, you have done like this, you have froze your frames in time and space. And not only that, you're not honoring yourself, you're the one who knows that you're not honoring yourself because you truly don't believe in that person. And the fact that you don't believe in that person and you're still promoting that person, you're lying to yourself.
Yeah, and a lot of managers and a lot of owners need to take that point more than anything right now, because with the workplace environment, as we talked earlier about how a lot of employees, managers are not happy, they detach themselves, and whoever that they answer to, their very next thing to do is to bring someone that they're already attached to be in that role, even though they know that it didn't work out with the other guy, but they just make it happen, and it ends up shooting them in the foot. And that's what we do. Because I know, getting back to that dance floor analogy, I've seen that person on the other side of the dance floor. I'm saying, I'm going to go ask her to dance. I am so looking forward to having her be my dance partner. We get out on the dance. She says yes. We get on the dance floor, and it's just not a connection. It's just not the right connection. So I walk her back to seat. I go back to my side of the dance floor, and we're now no longer attached. You can't take it personal. There was just not that great connection. And business owners and managers need to understand that that's life. That is really life, right?
Exactly. And the thing is that they don't realize that when you actually honor yourself and say, you know what, I'm not going to lie to myself, because the only person you're lying is you. And you're the only one who knows that, because that's your inner dialogue. I'm clapping because my voice is going a little bit. Anyway, the point of the story is that it's actually very interesting that when you honor yourself and then you become honest with the person and don't do that dance, what happens now? You've opened the space for a new person to come in. It may not happen right away, but because you actually honored yourself, you open the door for that new possibility to come into your life. And ultimately, you're going to appreciate it because you're going to experience it, and you're going to feel like, I'm so glad that I did not accept something that wasn't aligned with me.
Well said. And that probably is the takeaway. There's a lot of takeaways from today's episode, but that's got to be the key takeaway, because, like I said earlier, we are in that society where what we need today, we wanted yesterday. And we make rash decisions, snap decisions that just, we know in the long run, they're going to come back and bite us somewhere that's not really in a nice area. It's going to come back to bite us. And we need to honor ourselves. I love that. Honor ourselves, because really the only person we're really kidding is ourselves. And that's going to affect the long-term happiness of that team and the bottom line impacts of that business. So I love that part. Shehnaz, I can't thank you enough. For some reason, I thought we were going to be taking a trip to the moon, and we ended up being on the dance floor. So you know what? It was still a good learning moment. So thank you for that. And I know that you have so much great advice. I love just connecting with you, because I know that if I bring up a topic, you're going to give me a different filter process to look at and listen to what I'm thinking and saying, and you're going to make me look at it a completely different way. So I thank you for that. But before I let you leave, I know you have one more bit of wisdom from that quantum being, that spiritual alchemist, that rocket scientist from NASA. Give us one more bit of information, inspiration that we could take away this podcast with.
Well, I'm going to use one word, and people can look up hologram. So we are a walking hologram, and if you can actually even understand that one thing, it will really open the door for you. Because think about you, how you show up in front of your mom, in front of your dad, in front of your friends, and then start noticing that which version of you like and which version of you do not like so much. But that is also telling you that how you are showing up in the world, because you are choosing how to show up. That is in you. And people are bringing that, how we say you're bringing the best out in me, or you're bringing the worst out in me. That truly is true. It's because we are a hologram. We are projecting hologram. So my best advice for people is that, number one, they have to really listen to their inner voice, their inner feeling, their inner gauge, and do the best to represent themselves to the outside world. The better they become their own advocate, is going to help them reinforce that every single day, and they will feel more in harmony with themselves.
Great advice and great inspiration. I can't thank you enough. If someone out there listening and watching wants to get in touch with you to learn more about you and your way of thinking, how can they get in touch with you?
So the good thing is, it's basically, if you know my name, then you can get in touch with me. Pretty much when you type it on Google, a lot shows up nowadays. But basically my website is pretty much www.shehnazzsoni.com. So, and the spelling is SHEHNAZSONI. And if anybody's interested in the book, it's on Amazon. You just type The Quantum Being and it shows up.
Well, I can't thank you enough. This has been enjoyable, and I know we're going to do many more together. So thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
My podcast wouldn't be the same if it wasn't for my sponsors and my great supporters. So let me take this opportunity to thank each and every one of them. First of all, I want to thank Rebecca at Custom Bookkeeping and Accounting, delivering trustworthy bookkeeping services since 2003. Dave and Dara at Virtues Matter, making this world a much happier place to be with their Virtues card apps, coaching, and workshops. Stephen at Buller Accounting, giving business owners depth and insight to their numbers. Eric and his team at Ivy Cat Web Design, the real superheroes of web development and design. Jennifer and Jean at the Seavers Real Estate Team, serving Pierce and Kitsap counties with their home buying and selling needs. Maury at the Maury Method, the world's only brainwave entrainment engineer, helping everyone have more clarity, less stress, and overall better brain health. Priya at Pivot My Profit, helping individuals and businesses have better control of their finances and more money at the end of their day. Melissa at the Soul Vibe Energy High, the queen of the aha moments, helping individuals find those holes in their cups, repair the hole, and gain back their positive energy. And finally, Rick at West Sound Recording. You talk, they do all the rest. Thank you, Rick, for all your efforts with the production and editing of my podcast.